Everybody, and welcome to online classes. Today we're going to start with the new unit, Unit 8, Health and Disease. First of all, we're going to study the definition of health and disease, but first thing you need to take into account is that if we want to define health, we cannot say that is the lack of disease. And in the other way, if we want to define disease, it's not the lack of the absence of health. So, taking this clear, let's start. The World Health Organization defines health like the state of completely physical, mental, and social well-being. And disease is a continuous change in a function of a specific organ or of the whole body. Okay? Here we have two graphs that show very well the different causes of death in developed countries and undeveloped countries. As in developed countries, we have medical assistance, drugs, or medical treatments. The main causes of death could be cardiovascular diseases, chronic illnesses, or cancer. But in undeveloped countries, they don't have potable water, they don't have medical assistance, so the contagious diseases are the most probable cause to death in this type of countries. Okay? Now we're going to study the type of diseases according to the origin or the cause. We have infectious diseases and non-infectious diseases. The infectious diseases are caused by pathogens. Okay? The pathogens or disease-causing agents are the same, can pass from one person to other one. Okay? We can transmit each other the pathogen. In this case, we can study the influenza, the tuberculosis, as you see here, or the COVID-19 in our daily life. And then we have the non-infectious diseases. Okay, these diseases are not caused by pathogens, so they cannot be transmitted from human to human. And here we have different examples like diabetes, hypertension, cancer. You can put also obesity or traumatisms here, injuries, but then we will study, okay? Different diseases are spread in different population, countries, all over the world. So now we're going to study different terms to classify the status of a disease in terms of geographic and temporal distribution. First of all, we have the endemic disease. So the frequency is normal, okay, the disease is on constant level, and the distribution is on a specific population, okay? We only can talk about endemic if the infectious or non-infectious disease is in a normal or constant level and in a specific population. We can talk about the malaria in Africa, like infectious disease, or the epilepsy as non-infectious. Then we have the epidemic. What is the difference with endemic? That is more often than normal, okay? The frequency of this disease is more often than endemic ones. Again, we have the distribution in a specific population, and we can talk about Virella, as you see in this picture, or cholera, and a non-infectious disease, we can talk about Alzheimer's, okay? And now we have the pandemic disease. The pandemic disease is very occasional, okay? It's not very usual to have this kind of diseases, and the distribution is global, all over the world, okay? Now we are very conscious about this pandemic, like the COVID-19, but the Spanish flu was another pandemic, and now the non-infectious disease. There is a pandemic, there is acting in all over the world, is the obesity, okay? So, endemic, epidemic, and pandemic, depending on frequency and distribution. Endemic, normal and a specific population. Epidemic, more often than normal and also a specific population. And pandemic, only very occasional and all over the world, okay? Remember that we have infectious and non-infectious diseases, okay? We're going to start with non-infectious ones. We can classify them according to the origin and impact. We're going to study 5. degenerative diseases, deficiency diseases, traumatic injury, mental disorders, and congenital disorders. Let's start. The degenerative diseases, we have abnormal function of the body system, okay? If this disease attacks or affects the normal function of the organs or the whole body. Okay, for example, you had a heart attack, hypertension, anorexia, asthma. According to hypertension, here you have a picture that shows the levels of systolic and diastolic blood pressure. Okay, you don't need to study, but it's just for you to know. Okay, here you have the different levels, normal, elevated, or here just the pressure, the height pressure, and the levels in systolic and diastolic. Okay. Then we pass to endocrine disorder. These disorders are caused by an excess of or a deficit or a specific hormone. Remember the diabetes. This disease is caused by a lack of insulin, okay, or we don't produce enough insulin in our pancreatic islets. And then we have the cancer. Cancer, that is an uncontrolled division of our cells. If the cells start dividing in a normal way, we cannot talk about cancer because our cells need to divide. But if this division starts to be uncontrolled and more quickly than normal, we can talk about cancer. It's a tumor that is malignant. Remember that we have tumors, malignant tumors and benign tumors. If they are malignant, we talk about cancer. Disease, another non-infectious disease. These kind of diseases are brought about a lack of certain nutrients, okay, that cause malnutrition. What are the causes of malnutrition? If we have a poor diet or if our body can absorb the nutrients that we are eating, that we are consuming. Okay, here we have different examples: anemia, in the case of iron, goitres, okay, this is a goitres and affects the thyroid. Then vitamin deficiency disorders, that are the most common ones and also the most dangerous. Here you have different examples. For example, the vitamin A causes loss vision, the vitamin B1 beriberi, the vitamin C scurvy, and the vitamin D rickets. Okay, different examples, and you can choose the one that you want. Then we pass to traumatic injury. This is the most simplest one. Okay, all of you know what it is. If you affect bones, muscles, ligament, tendons, or joints, okay, it's breakdown. It can be caused by accident, okay, it can affect all these things that we have already mentioned. Okay, here you have different examples like tendinitis. And let's pass to mental disorders. Okay, these are related to behavior, cognition, or emotions. Okay, an emotion inside us. Here you have different examples: depression, dyslexia, or schizophrenia. Here you have an example of how a person with dyslexia can see the same word. Okay, here you have the original word, cat, and a person with dyslexia can see it in all of these ways. Okay, changing the position, changing the order of the letters, or everything. Okay, combined. And here you have a brain with schizophrenia and a healthy brain. The last non-infectious disease, okay, the congenital disorders. These are caused by genetic anomalies that are present at birth. What means genetic anomalies? That are inside our DNA, okay, inside our genes, and we cannot change this. Here we have different examples, okay, the Down syndrome, that is the trisomy 21, okay, we have 23 pairs of chromosomes in our DNA, okay, and if a pair in the 21 pair we have, instead of 2, we have 3, okay, this is the cause of the Down syndrome. Then we have the congenital blindness, the Williams syndrome, okay, that means that you cannot stop the hemorrhage, okay, and hemophilia, okay, the hemophilia that is responsible of different mental and physical disorders, and that's it. Then in the next class, we're going to start with infectious diseases.